Hello, everybody. My name is Franco Cortez. I will be your host for today's event. And I would like to welcome all of you to the first of a series of webinars launched by Deep Pharma Intelligence, a new project between Deep Knowledge Group's deep tech-focused analytical subsidiary, Deep Knowledge Analytics, and Biopharma Trends. Today's event will deliver an overview of Deep Pharma Intelligence's inaugural project, including their recent industry report on the state of AI in pharma, biotech, and drug discovery as of Q4 2020, as well as their corresponding AI in pharma big data investment analytics dashboard and IT platform, which uses AI, machine learning, reinforcement learning, and data science to extract tangible industry insights for companies and investors alike, which is being given an early release in alpha format to select industry participants in order to get relevant industry feedback and hone some of its more advanced functionalities. We're being joined today by Dr. Andrei Bavailo, Director of Deep Pharma Intelligence and co-founder of Biopharma Trends, who will be delivering key insights from their new industry report and associated IT platform, with a specific focus on investment trends from that report, as well as Alex Kresniov, Director of Deep Pharma Intelligence's co-founder, Deep Knowledge Analytics. And Alex will be delivering an overview of the AI in Pharma Big Data Analytics dashboard released by Deep Pharma Intelligence, including its current scope of functionality, as well as its developmental trajectory over the coming months. Following that, we will be joined by Dmitry Kaminsky, co-founder of Deep Knowledge Group and Deep Pharma Intelligence, who will be sharing some words on overall investment trends in the AI in pharma space. And he will be followed by our guest speaker, Panna Sharma, CEO of our Spotlight guest company, Lantern Pharma, who will be delivering a brief overview of his company and their recent activities in the AI in pharma space. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome our first speaker, Dr. Andrei Bavailo, Director of Deep Pharma Intelligence, to share some insights from the company's inaugural project and report. Dr. Bavailo, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Franco. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining our webinar today. I'm glad to be introducing some projects, latest insights that we have uncovered about AI and drug discovery industry and our major plans for 2021 that the team at Deep Pharma Intelligence have. And the Deep Pharma Intelligence is the joint venture of two leading UK-based think tanks, Deep Knowledge Analytics and Biopharma Trend, of which I'm a co-founder. Just a couple of words about Biopharma Trends, where we started. In 2016, we started as a blog about emerging biotech companies and technologies, and we had particular focus on the artificial intelligence in drug discovery. That was our first topic, and then we expanded into other emerging areas of the biotech. And over the years, we have grown into a leading platform for reflecting on the trends and companies in this area and predicting some market moves. In 2019, we won a prestigious private grant in the UK, the Catalyst Grant, and with that we established BT Analytics Limited Company and started building a software as a service market intelligence tool, which was supposed to become a leading tool for market analysis, investment analytics, and so forth in the biotech space. Actually, in 2020, we launched the beta prototype. And in 2020, at the end of the year, we formed a joint venture with Deep Knowledge Analytics, where we joined together and brought together the expertise in software development, data science, and also extensive pharmaceutical expertise in the domain sectors like AI and drug discovery and other emerging areas. Currently, the deep pharma intelligence is focused on the deep domain expertise in the pharmaceutical industry, including technical analysis in the areas such as artificial intelligence, new therapeutic modalities, stem cells, longevity therapeutics, and digital health, and more. And also, as a company, we are very strong in the business side of things, including biotech investment advisory, technical and business due diligence, competitive analysis, and strategic consultancy for the pharmaceutical decision makers, as well as financial institutions. Currently, we are producing regularly the open access reports covering the industry, and we are specifically focusing on the emerging trends and very hot markets that are going to disrupt the industry in the foreseeable future. And also we are offering the proprietary reports and proprietary analytics, which provides a very deep insight into different areas, new ventures, new opportunities, and so forth. You can access reports following those links below. Having joined with Deep Knowledge Analytics, we are under the company Deep Pharma Intelligence. We're now building the industry's leading software as a service platform, which will incorporate big data analytics about the pharma industry as a whole, and specifically focusing on the startup scene, on the private equity markets, but also on the public companies and large corporations. This will be a one-stop shop tool for the decision-making, growth strategy building, as well as investment analysis for all the stakeholders who can possibly be interested in this field. This is the website of Deep Pharma Intelligence, and I welcome you to visit it and explore the wide range of services and opportunities that we currently have. Thank you.
Thank you very much for that, Dr. Bavilo. I'd now like to pass the floor over to Alex Kresniov, Director of Deep Knowledge Analytics, to share a little bit of insight into Deep Knowledge Analytics' involvement in this inaugural project from Deep Pharma Intelligence, as well as a little bit of background on its activities in the AI and drug discovery space over the past several years. Alex, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Franco. Do you see my screen?
We do.
Thank you so much. So I'm speaking on behalf of Deep Knowledge Analytics, a co-founder of Deep Pharma Intelligence. We've been producing deep tech analysis for several years, including AI for drug discovery analysis. Let me briefly present the most significant projects we had during these 3 years. So as you can see here, I collected several projects, several examples for you. So just to show that we've been producing projects like blockchain focused, AI focused fintech, and longevity. One of the first and brightest achievements of Deep Knowledge Analytics was in 2018 when we presented AI and UK landscape report at the event made by all-party parliamentary group on artificial intelligence in the UK. So where actually are we now in these 2 years? We are rapidly moving from 2D visualizations to 3D visualizations. I hope this will significantly increase our possibilities and visualization abilities. So another example was COVID-19 analytics, where we analyzed 250 countries and regions using 140 parameters. So this report was covered by multiple media and acknowledged by various international organizations as well as notable persons. Speaking about our experience in researching of AI in pharmaceutical industry. So our journey began in 2017 when our first report was produced. It included only 11 companies and was based only on a few parameters. Frankly, based on this timeline, you can easily check how the industry was growing. So in 2018 was produced 4 reports. In 19, 3 reports. All of these reports were landscape overviews, presenting investment analytics and a general overview of various achievements in the industry. There were several reports about pharmaceutical industry as a whole. As example, you can see here like reports about leaders, women, conferences, and so on and so forth. Here is our achievements from 2017 to 2020. So this is our first circle mind map, which include only 11 companies. Now it has more than 200 companies, actually 240. So with these results, we decided to create jointly with Biopharma Trend a new company called Deep Pharma Intelligence. And in 2020, we also produced a report jointly, which will be presented again in a few minutes. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Alexey.
Yeah.
Now I would like to pass the floor back over to Dr. Andrei Bavailo, Director of Deep Pharma Intelligence, who will deliver some key takeaways and insights with a focus on investment trends and broad industry trends from the inaugural report and associated IT platform released recently by Deep Pharma Intelligence. Andrei, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Franco. As I said, Deep Pharma Intelligence inherited resources and expertise from its founding partners, Deep Knowledge Analytics and Biopharma Trend. And so this report was produced by the joint team of the two teams. And I'd like to briefly provide some highlights about the report and basically our key findings over the year 2020. So essentially, the problem is in the pharmaceutical industry is that it's not sufficiently optimized to translate innovation into the actual workable drugs. So it takes on average 10 years and more than $2.5 billion to bring a drug to market, and a lot of failures occur, and it's a known thing that many drug candidates simply fail at later stages, creating huge costs for the pharmaceutical industry. And of course, the patients don't get their medications as fast as it could be possible. Artificial intelligence is one way to address this issue, because this is a very global technology that interconnects many aspects of the pharmaceutical research and development process. So it is now being used basically at every stage of the process, starting from the ideation, data generation and data processing, hypothesis generation, all the way to screening projects, clinical trials, and even some pharmacovigilance projects to track the actual performance of the drugs in the markets. So artificial intelligence is a strategic thing at this point. And the community of the AI in pharma is kind of segmented still. It's still growing rapidly, but we will see much more to come. Currently, it is primarily represented by several hundred AI-focused biotech startups and scale-ups. And also big pharma companies are also developing in-house programs and actively partnering with external AI vendors or experts. It is interesting to know that contract research organizations, large ones, are also actively competing for this technology, and there is a growing wave of collaborations between largest contract research organizations and different vendors, technology providers, or innovators. And also an interesting and important trend is that big tech companies, which are traditionally non-medical companies like Google, Tencent, or Amazon, they are now entering the healthcare space as well, because they already have very sophisticated AI tech and they kind of competing with the classical drug makers. But at this point, they are also making a lot of partnerships with them. It's interesting to focus on the AI startups because they are kind of cradle of innovation in that sense. And already today, we can see that some of the players have more advanced AI capabilities, including end-to-end platforms from basic research to basically bringing the candidates all the way to clinical trials. And they also have advanced pipelines, including clinical drug candidates, while others are basically developing some services or tools based on the AI, but also competing to grow and become stronger. I would say that over the last several years, there has been an inflection point that we would call an AlphaGo moment in the pharmaceutical industry, where in 2018 and 2019, several companies basically applied AI at such scale and with such results that they managed to actually, I would say, transform the paradigm and put face in the technology in the eyes of really big partners and clients. I will review some of these examples, but generally speaking, the basic for the AI revolution has been built in 1990s of the last century with all the fundamental technologies basically appearing on theoretical level. Then in 2012, we can point out to like image nets competition and the rise of practical deep learning application, not only in pharma, but primarily in other industries, but then pharma followed. In 2015, some sophisticated neural nets emerged, like, for example, generative adversarial networks and other neural nets. And basically all that led to rapid growth in the number of startups applying such technologies, and as well as other players hunting for collaborations and basic move in this area. We also anticipate that the next years will be highlighted by the maturation of the technology and even commoditization, and basically a lot of strategic collaborations like investments or merger and acquisition deals where big players will be trying to kind of get the state-of-the-art technology at their hands. So the examples, of course, everybody probably knows about Google DeepMind, who basically learned and solved the 50-year grand challenge in biology, which is predicting proteins 3D shape from its amino acid sequence. It's a landmark work. And I would also point to Silicon Medicine's applicability of their adversarial generative networks to creation of kinase inhibitors to DDR1 targets within just 21 days and then validating it in vitro and in vivo. Also, Deep Genomics claimed that they developed the oligonucleotide candidate for Wilson disease in just under 18 months. Maybe Hills, who also applied AI to bring the candidate to phase 2A trial just within 18 months. These are just examples, and there are much more of those. But what I would say that those are kind of landmark works validating the drug discovery potential of this technology. From the commercial point of view, the performance of the AI adoption can be seen in the increasing amount of partnerships specifically involving AI technologies. These are the partnerships with Big Pharma, where Big Pharma is partnering with AI startups to kind of probe the grounds and make different pilot projects or even more sophisticated programs. And the most important part of this is that some of those collaborations, which started several years ago, already providing exciting commercial results. And here I just briefly summarize just 3 of them, which is the partnership of Atomwise with Hansaw, where they initially partnered but now expand partnership because of prominent results. And also Recursion Pharmaceuticals, for example, expanded partnership and realized their options with Takeda following their success with internal drug candidate development programs. And for example, Exscientia, which reached its first major milestone with GSK last year using their AI platform. So we have clear leaders speaking in terms of formal numbers of AI collaborations, but of course we have to closely look at each collaboration to understand the specifics and the impact that AI is having. Speaking about Big Pharma, we have clear leaders in the pack who are leading this race. Basically, I can name Bayer, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, Takeda, GSK, Novartis, Janssen, and others who are basically having a lot of collaborations, major collaborations. And as I mentioned previously, contract research industry is really catching up here, and large companies like IQVIA, Parexel, they are partnering to apply AI primarily for clinical trial design or patient certification or real data world evidence analysis, pharmacovigilance, and basically for operational tasks like hiring patients for clinical trials more efficiently and so on. And there are other examples where PPD, for example, collaborated on that same aspect, whereas Charles River Laboratories and WuXi AppTec explored AI for more drug design approaches, where it actually partnered with the startups to leverage their innovation. So concluding this brief report, I would say that the AI has now become a strategic priority, whereas it was, let's say, in 2015 or 2016, it was pretty much criticized by many. But now pretty much every player in the industry is probing something or already investing in this technology. And there is a number of drivers which make sure that the industry is heating up. It's first of all a wave of proof of concept studies. There are hundreds and probably thousands of those in research facilities. And also there are commercial successes. Some of them I just mentioned. And the very important thing is AI democratization in general, which means that AI technology is becoming accessible to actually non-data scientists or in a form of different usable drag and drop pipeline builders or frameworks that can be quickly leveraged for your data science projects and so on. So AI is becoming more accessible, more suitable. And also, of course, the general understanding of AI mechanics among the pharma industry, the learning curve that everyone is now following, this is a major factor for AI adoption. So we regularly cover this area in our open access reports, and I believe this is very beneficial for the community. These are free reports, and so everybody can read and gain insights. But for more in-depth decision-making analytics in the financial landscape, let's say investment landscape, or in the growth strategy building aspects, we offer proprietary analytics where our team can help develop those strategies. So this is summarizes the highlights from this report. So what I would like to demonstrate is basically the dashboard, the analytics dashboard, which is now available for review. This dashboard is aimed at providing actionable insights in the form of advanced visualization, and also it is based on our database of companies and all the information that we are gathering about the companies. So the dashboard basically combines several blocks of software that we are now developing. This is a prototype stage right now, and we're going to launch the commercial version within several months from now. But now I can just briefly go through several options, features that we currently have. So essentially, the dashboard summarizes this one particular dashboard summarizes AI companies because this is the focus of this webinar. But in general, we have the whole industry that is incorporated, and so this specific dashboard focuses on 257 companies and also investors involved in this particular sector, names funding rounds, different news, papers, patents, and all sorts of things that relates to deals that relates to this industry, to this sector. In the marketplace, you can already briefly go through some company information, for example, or you can basically review detailed information about companies. And we have some functionality for Swot analysis already. This is this stuff that helps basically identify the company's position, overall position in the market, and we will be expanding this functionality much deeper to in the next round of the release of this software. We also have visualization tools where you can pretty much see different sorts of things like collaborations, partners, and also build some visualization graphs. For example, you can see companies over years, over different parameters, and again, you can access information, briefly review it, and so on and so forth. And also, we have a matching tool. This is a prototype of the matching tool, already functional. For example, if we go to in this matching tool, we can just briefly review the investors who are investing in the company of interest. Let's say we can see competitors of that particular company, and basically investors involved in the whole landscape of the investment, basically the investors who invested in all the competitors. So you can conduct kind of exploratory analysis and basically see what's happening and who is involved in the financial transactions. So this is the backend part, and we have advanced visualization part, which is in the form of 2D mind maps. Let me briefly show them. So the mind maps are basically profiling the industry across different sectors, and we have a number of such mind maps across different parameters. They will be incorporated into the backend system in the next release, but already now you can have very powerful insights about different companies and see their parameters, what they're doing. And this kind of brief reference for you to utilize. And also visualization graphs. These are kind of examples of what will be incorporated in terms of visualization. So these are graphs that are showing certain industry developments. We will be having hundreds of those available on different parameters and matters. And by the way, you can, I suggest you already start exploring the platform and providing your feedback to us. This will be very highly appreciated, because alternatively we are doing it for your value, and we would like to hear the opinion and see you using this tool. So this is very brief overview, and I'm giving the word to the next speaker.
Thank you so much, Dr. Bivailo. I'd now like to welcome Alex Kresniov, again, Director of Deep Knowledge Analytics, to give a little bit more technically oriented insight into the platform's back-end machine learning analytics and the like. Alex, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. So as you can see here on this chart, we do have quite a lot of parameters and data points related to the topic of today's discussion. And here it's important to say that this is quite small part of the data set we are using to train our algorithms and various machine learning tools. So we have implemented a multi-parameter company evaluation process, which allows us to estimate company strengths and weaknesses and estimate risks. We're building a machine learning based platform that will be able to not only classify companies and market signals, but also estimate future risks and identify various opportunities, again, for investments and various other various activities. So the most popular question where we taking all the data is pretty simple. So it's specific databases, mainly pharmaceutical ones, parsing engines, which we develop by ourselves, public available databases, business databases. Again, we do have a quite huge team of experts who can help us to collect the data manually. And especially the main idea kind of this slide is to say that we are using the data which is submitted by users, and we're strongly encouraging you to claim ownership of your profiles and help us to fill the gaps in the data we do have there. Again, we're implementing state-of-the-art supervised and unsupervised machine learning companies, which will be used for deriving actionable investment and strategic growth insights for our customers. So here's a quite kind of visualization. And in the end, yeah, it's again the slide with the dashboard. And again, I would like to end here this section by encouraging representatives of those companies we mentioned in the report to access the platform, to register there, and to provide some data about yourself. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Alex. I would now like to pass the floor over to Dmitry Kaminsky, co-founder of Deep Knowledge Group and Deep Pharma Intelligence, who I believe will be sharing a few words on investment trends in the AI and pharma space. Dmitry, welcome.
Thank you, Franco, for introduction. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. So I'm sharing my screen. Do you see it?
We do.
Okay, so today I will speak about investment trends and some financial projections regarding this pharma AI sector as it is now at the stage of 2020. I will give some overview also of the past periods, and I will provide some our projections about the next several years, and we'll give some overview of our investment digest and investment analytics. So back, we can consider that this industry started its growth, actually its inception, probably around 2013, And yet even in 2016, 2017, there was quite a lot of skepticism and criticism, mostly from the side of big pharma corporations. However, already in 2018, we witnessed quite significant growth of the market of this particular, field of artificial intelligence for drug discovery startups. And then 1 year ago, we saw quite significant transition from quantity to quality. Many of those startups, companies, AI for drug discovery companies, achieved quite significant visible and practical results. During this year, there is already quite intensive competition between those companies and some pharma corporations for those hunting for those, most promising, most advanced, most sophisticated companies, but also talents. And we can predict that there's no doubt that in the next 2, maximum 3 years, there will be quite significant market consolidation. Currently, in an analytical report, which was presented by big pharma interns, deep pharma interns, there are profiled in the open source 240 companies, 600 investors, 90 corporations. However, in reality, the real scope of analytics is wider, and approximately 400 companies can be considered that they are having some activities in this field, and much greater number of investors. As it is now for December 2020, we can predict that this number will grow every several months by at least several hundreds of new investors, newcomers from other sectors. And also, of course, quite a lot of corporations are exploring this field, and they will be quite inspired by those corporations who already achieved quite significant results during the last several years. By this link, you can access, you can get free of charge access to Investment Digest. This document by this link will be updated systematically, approximately every 2 months. There is apparent growth trajectory on the matter of investment rounds and overall amount of invested budget into AI for drug discovery companies. And even during 2020, despite the pandemics, the overall amount of investments was greater compared with 2019. So in reality, pandemics not slowed down the sector, but vice versa, accelerated its further development. During last year, we saw quite significant investment rounds. Some of them exceeded even $200 or $300 million. One company successfully conducted their IPO. And in that Investment Digest, there are also overview of most active investors by quantity of their deals. For example, here are 50 most active investors in terms of quantity of deals. However, playing this, making these bets in this casino on the early stage startups, or maybe most promising startups, maybe the quantity is not the best indicator for investors, in the sense that limited partners who are investing in those investment funds maybe too much big quantity of investments may be the mark of not the best investment strategy of those investment funds. Nevertheless, we are analyzing not only the companies, but also investors and their investment strategies. And here just some very brief overview of the approach to analysis. In actual commercial version of investment analytics dashboards, there will be much more comprehensive analysis of investment funds. And in some cases, we are more interested in analysis of investment funds rather than just even startups. Here's some distribution of regional distribution of those 50 investors. Of course, United States currently is leading. However, China is emerging quite quickly in terms of activities on the investment side. Big pharma corporations, not only pharma, but also tech corporations such as Google, Amazon, Baidu, Alibaba, and so on. Also chemical corporations, they becoming very active in the field. And actually their activities and their significantly changing incidence from as it was previously nice to try. Now, for some of them, it became strategically important. This is one of the major drivers for further growth of market capitalization and actually activities in on the investment sides. And with that, actually, it will also most likely ignite quite a lot of M&As and different other types of financial transactions and deals on the market. Here you can see the growth of the quantity of deals between pharma and the AI for drug discovery companies. This is also showing a very straightforward growing interest of corporations to this topic. This is a mind map of most active pharma corporations, pharma and tech corporations in the field. And here you can see three leading corporations, Bayer, Pfizer, AstraZeneca, who made the biggest quantity of deals with AI for drug discovery focused companies. So with that, we can consider that these three companies may have some strategic advantage in the next years. This is another projections of this collaborative deals between pharma and AI companies. And this is projections most successful companies capable to structure such type of the deals with big pharma corporations. Some key takeaways from Investment Digest. We are now seeing start of consolidation of this sector of artificial intelligence in pharma. Apparently, we do see very clear that this sector is heating up in terms of investments. Pharma corporations and other type of corporations actually starting to compete for most capable AI companies, like specializing on applications of artificial intelligence for drug discovery, for different types of R&D, advanced R&D in pharma. COVID pandemics, as I mentioned, not slowed down, but vice versa, significantly accelerated further development of this field, including financial angles of the sector. Quite significant number of companies successfully completed their rounds B, C, and even D, and one company conducted their initial public offering. So in terms of global context, US is main player. However, China is very significantly accelerating its investments activities in this field, whereas UK and Europe traditionally are strong ground for biopharma in general, and we are quite confident that it will stay quite stable in its positions for many years ahead in terms of artificial intelligence for drug discovery. Some of our projections for the next several years. Overall, biotech industry and drug discovery in particular will be on the rise for the next several years. AI for drug discovery and advanced R&D sector will be maturing quite significantly. We will see more and more IPOs. We will see more and more mergers and acquisitions in the next several years. Also, this will ignite and attract a number of investors from other non-biotech sectors. Let's say non-specialized biotech investors, they will enter this field just because it will be clear that many companies are already at the pre-IPO stage, and this is quite simple to invest in them, even not having specialized expertise in drug discovery or even more in artificial intelligence for drug discovery. And we will also apparently will see quite significant increase in activities on the secondary market. What does it mean? Let's say there are 10 most promising companies, AI for drug discovery companies. They are now at the stage of C rounds, pre-IPO rounds. Current investors will use their offer rights and not permit new investors to enter those companies in most cases. However, some early investors in those companies may have opportunities or interest to sell their early positions in equity to newcomers in this field, because most of those most promising companies think they may be already blocked for new investors, unless there will be significant increase of proposed valuation for the companies. And in general, we can consider that 2020 will become a year of consolidation of this sector. Therefore, 2021, this is the year for opportunities, window of opportunities for investors, especially for new investors in the field, to yet put some of their investments into relevant AI for the discovery companies in the sector in particular. This is big data analytical dashboard. In this dashboard, quite significant attention will be given towards investment analytics, business analytics, structuring deals, and many other specific, somehow related to financial angles. You can review this dashboard and get access to the accounts by this link. If you'll be interested, you shall contact the company. And currently, because it is yet beta version, so you can temporarily get access for free. And probably in the next 3 to 6 months, it will become a commercial version. But yet there will be quite a lot of analytics free of charge. And this is, by the way, disruption of business model for entire industry analytics. In particular, why it is so? The company having so significant deep pharma company, having so significant tech capabilities, tech tools to aggregate data in in very much automated way. That's why it can reposition their most advanced standards towards more specific proprietary analytics, whereas it already has so big abundance of data on the industry that it is for the company it's affordable to put as an open source quite a lot of analytics, including investment digest, including some overview of funding rounds, deals, business trends, investment trends, and many others. And even such tools, matching tool, which is basically giving the very same options to, as in case of pitch book, to review all relevant information in case that if company looking for investors. So this so-called matching tool, this is first of all support decision analytics to help startups to engage with, to find the most relevant, the most best for them investors. Whereas in regards to proprietary analytics, you shall address, you shall contact the company by this email and get in touch with managers of the company. And I can assure you that there is quite significant, quite advanced analytics, especially on the matter of SWOT analysis, some kind of business intelligence, investment analytics, and therefore the company can afford itself to put quite a lot of analytics as an open source, because this is like the company is capable to focus on more deep insights rather than just standard industry analytics. Here just kind of some very brief key points regarding what is achieved already in this analytical dashboard, including partially automated brief SWOT analysis of the companies, visualization of profiles of the companies in the form of two-dimensional diagrams, and some other features, including they're using machine learning to automate this analytics at this stage. Here is a short video just explaining how the company is working on the next stage of analytics. So this is 3D profiles of the companies and investors and corporations. So all this will be multi-dimensional vector space, starting with 3 dimensions. And then there will be actually one significant part will be 4th dimension, which will be so-called time machine. So you will be able to see evolution of each entity during the time. So here just kind of some explanation on this matter. This is a simple profile of the company in the form of just flat two-dimensional projection. And in regards to close plans for the next 3 to 6 months, so the company will develop much more enhanced methods, automated machine learning support and deep learning supported methods for SWOT analysis, investment analytics, and analysis of multiple other parameters and factors, and actually to support and enhance the most unbiased and pragmatic decision making regarding investment decisions, including to provide investors with tools for significantly de-risk their investments, to protect them from some kind of black boxes or some overclaimed features, which are sometimes promoted by companies looking for investments. Here you can see the major links, including company, website, email, investment digest link, and this big data analytical dashboard. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you so much for those insights, Dmitry. Before passing the floor over to our guest speaker and spotlight company, Pana Sharma, I would like to take a few brief moments to give an overview of a convergent project currently underway at Aging Analytics Agency. My name is Franco Cortez, again, Director of Aging Analytics Agency, which is Deep Knowledge Group's longevity-focused analytical subsidiary. And I'd like to deliver a short overview of a project in development that we refer to as the Longevity Industry Investment Analytics Dashboard. This uses a suite of approaches and technologies quite similar to those used by Deep Pharma Intelligence's dashboard, which you just heard about, including interactive filterable industry databases, network diagrams, and both 2D and 3D interactive mind maps, and an AI and reinforcement learning based company and investor competitor smart matching engine. And it should be noted, by the way, that while the connections between AI and pharma and longevity may not be immediately or directly obvious to all attendees today, we at Deep Knowledge Group recognize them both as integral parts of the overall developmental trajectory of advanced healthcare generally, which is increasingly moving towards precision and preventive approaches and away from single disease reactionary treatments. So while our conception of the longevity industry per se is quite broad, including both biomedical aspects as well as tech sectors like age tech, fintech, neurotech, and others, for the purpose of today's event, as well as the current developmental stage of the Longevity Investment Analytics Dashboard itself. We're mostly speaking here about biomedical sectors, which fall within the scope of longevity. But which many listeners today may not necessarily immediately associate with the catch-all term longevity. So these include, the fields of P4 medicine, which means precision, preventive, predictive, and participatory medicine. Advanced early diagnostics and prognostics to detect and treat age-related diseases very early in their development before the actual emergence of pathology. As well as some more experimental interventions within the scope of regenerative medicine, cell therapies, gene therapies, and the like. Aging Analytics Agency's Longevity Investment Big Data Analytics Dashboard is currently in prototype development and is being released to select industry participants much in the way of Deep Pharma Intelligence's dashboard in alpha format to get early feedback and refine some of its features. Also, much like Deep Pharma Intelligence's dashboard, It uses big data analytics to deliver interactive and dynamic databases, industry mind maps, and AI and reinforcement learning backed competitor and investor smart matching. So the dashboard currently contains more than 19,000 companies, 9,000 investors, 16,000 personalities, and these numbers are growing all the time. And the overall number of data points currently stands at over 800,000, quickly approaching the 1 million plus mark. The platform features several specific features that I'd like to introduce to you here, including a comprehensive series of interactive mind maps, which has really become a hallmark of our analytical approach over the years, both at Aging Analytics Agency as well as Deep Knowledge Analytics. These maps can be filtered to highlight and isolate specific entities and sectors, zoomed in on, and with individual profiles for each entity, which when clicked on, opens up their profile and associated data. The dashboard also features a dynamic industry database of companies and investors segmented into several specific sectors, which feature brief profiles of those entities, as well as more detailed profiles. So here we could see the AI for longevity sector and the brief profiles of several companies. And if you click detailed view, it will open up a more elaborate profile that contains a wide array of data points and specific parameters on that company. All of which are extensively searchable and filterable according to a wide variety of factors and parameters, including levels of funding, funding type and status, broad geographic region and country, as well as industry, subsector, and technology. And as you can see here, these are combinatory, meaning that you can apply several filters at once, and it filters the selection of companies in accordance with those that match the criteria. So you see the scope of companies has been significantly decreased by applying those filters. The platform also features the same set of structural data in the form of interactive network diagrams, which essentially visualize funding between investors and companies, and which are also dynamic. You can zoom in on them, you can adjust them in different ways on your screen. And all this data is likewise extensively filterable and searchable according to a number of quantitative and qualitative parameters across finance, region, business development, sector focus, and technology. Clicking on a given investor or company logo will open up the detailed profile of that entity and its associated set of data. Now, the dashboard currently also features a prototype investor and company search and matching engine, which uses AI and reinforcement learning to produce a list of predicted competitors for companies and investors. In the case of companies, it visualizes the company profile and its associated data, which is in our interactive database to begin with, as well as a list of investors into that company, the company's predicted competitors, and the investors of its competitors. In other words, the firms that have invested into its predicted list of competitors. The same scope of functionality also applies to investors. So if you search an investor, it will show that investor's portfolio, longevity-focused portfolio, its list of predicted competitors, and the portfolio companies of its competitors. So the dashboard is still in prototype development, and much like Deep Pharma Intelligence's investment analytics dashboard, it's being given early alpha access to select industry participants and parties. So if anybody watching today is interested in gaining early access to the platform, I encourage you to write us at info@aginganalytics.com so that we could facilitate that for you. Now, I would like to pass the floor over to our guest spotlight speaker, Panna Sharma, who is CEO of Lantern Pharma. Lantern Pharma is a clinical stage oncology pharma company developing 3 drug candidates that leverage AI and machine learning to gain a deeper understanding of how to personalize and develop targeted cancer therapies. Lantern in-licenses and develops therapies using genomic data, machine learning in pharma, and computational biology modeling to identify the patient groups most likely to respond to a therapy and to clarify the potential underlying mechanisms of action. So without further ado, I would like to pass the floor over to Panna to give us a brief overview of his company's activities in the AI and drug discovery sector.
Well, thank you, Franco. First of all, I'd like to thank the Deep Knowledge team for inviting me to share what we're doing. I think there's a lot of useful data that they have in their system. It's great to see some of the visualizations. I would love to thank also Dimitri and Andre, especially for recognizing how biotech and pharma are rapidly using AI and data-driven approaches to kind of fundamentally, I think, change the trajectory of drug development. Lantern Pharma is a publicly traded company, so I may make forward-looking statements. We're traded on the NASDAQ as ticker LTRN. And as Dimitri pointed out earlier, we were fortunate enough to go public earlier this year, about 6 months ago. The core of our business, as was mentioned earlier by Franco, is that we look at drugs, especially ones that have been abandoned or failed because there's a lack of knowledge about what patients it'll work best in, or trials do not meet their efficacy or endpoints. And we use big data approaches by assembling all the genomic clinical response data from historical trials, from historical studies, from publications, and also from our own work that we do on those compounds or drug classes to do 2 things: fill in and understand the mechanism of action, understand combinations that could be used, and what patient subgroups and will best respond to that drug. So we use the radar engine now both to stratify patients into subgroups, but also to help us reduce the risk in development. On this presentation, I'll focus more on our AI platform and radar as opposed to the biology and mechanisms of action of our drugs. But I'll try to do it in a way that we accomplish both. When I got to the company a little over 2.5 years ago, radar was about 10, 20 million data points. Today, it's over 1.1 billion data points. It'll probably close the year even north of that. Next year, we expect to get to 3 to 5 billion data points, maybe even more. And our goal is to get to 6 to 10 billion in 2022. And again, that might happen even faster. We're already about 6 months ahead of our schedule. We've highlighted some of the curated data sources. So in addition to bringing in the data, it actually gets cleaned, meta tagged 28 different ways so that we can analyze it. And then we have a specific ontology that we use because we're purely focused on cancer drug development. So unlike a lot of companies in our space, I believe the more focused your problem can be, the greater likelihood of your success is. So the scientific value our platform enables is identifying new compounds that we can rescue and develop, giving us a more nuanced understanding of responder groups, non-responder groups based on biological networks of biomarkers and genes, and feedback for potential mechanisms that we can exploit to do target-based development activity. And that's a very important point of one of our new drugs, LP-184, where we're using that. And by doing that, we're actually compressing what would take in a lab a year or 2, and we're compressing that down to months. And the patient value this has is more rapid entry into specific patient subgroups, potentially with rare and orphan indication, a way to accelerate the trials through companion diagnostics, and a way to improve patient outcomes, which is ultimately the real driver for this, is to save lives and change the healthcare cost. The way we look and communicate radar is important. So right now, we kind of our key architecture platform is ultimately how much blinded success do the algorithms have in answering the questions that we want. And the success rate is now approaching 90%. It's over 85% now on using the algorithms blinded. to answer questions about subtypes of cancer, response groups, genomic networks that are seen at actual in vivo, in vitro, and also in vitro systems. We have about 56,000 patient records, clinical histories, over 144 different drug-tumor interactions modeled. That includes over 90% of the approved cancer drugs, and as I said, over 1.1 billion data points from cancer data sets, both preclinical and clinical. The vast majority, though, are clinical, about 85%. So where do we point this? We point this now to 4 programs. These programs are worth several $billions. The first one in metastatic prostate cancer, that's castration resistant or androgen deprivation resistant. We have our first drug, it's in phase 2 trials today, where it's enrolling. We have LP300, again, another drug that is a very interesting small molecule that's now about to launch in phase 2 for non-small cell lung cancer in never smokers. And again, we use radar to understand the mechanism of action, develop a companion signature, and validate the fact that the proteins that we're targeting are in fact the proteins of interest in the never smoker group. And then a new drug, LP184, which was actually helped with radar from very, very early stages. And we're collaborating with Georgetown and Fox Chase. We have another major collaboration that we'll be announcing. And the same drug, the radar predicted that it would work in glioblastoma as one of the top cancers, and actually it also works in GBM. We went to the wet lab. All this is surrounded by about 106 current patents that are issued and 8 pending applications. So digging into radar, so we bring all this data together from open source, our own proprietary data, private partner data. We cleanse and curate and normalize it. This is very important. Establishing the ontology of what you are looking at helps you understand what kind of questions you can solve. And then we do various algorithms to actually look at the genomic and biological features that we select and that we highlight for analysis, including transcriptome features, DNA features, protein features, features around response, features around blood-brain permeability, immunogenicity. So there's a whole range of features that we look at. And then we, once we understand which ones we're looking at, whether they're preclinical or clinical, we then unleash various algorithms. They can be from XGBoost to artificial neural networks, to scalar vector machines, to simple Keras regression. All these then compete because no one algorithm is perfect. It depends on the question you're trying to solve, the kind of data you have, the timelines and constraints, and these algorithms compete. And then we look at the algorithm and say 2 things. Is it statistically significant, and does it give us biological relevance that will help us in the trials? And then once we have that, that biology and statistical driven feature selection repeats and iterates, and then we finally have really a trained model. That trained model we continue to refine in various other tumor indications, and then we also take that and then apply it to an actual stratification tool or companion diagnostic or biomarker panel that we can use in the trials. Let's look at some of the features of radar. If you look at radar, it predicted, it created a signature, and as the number of biomarkers increased, you can see that the prediction was around 10 biomarkers or so was ideal. And also, as you look at, we looked at the number of different cell lines, and it predicted cell lines exquisitely. The area under the curve for this particular run was pretty amazing. And of course, it really predicted the responders and non-responders in this particular data set perfectly. At this point, we knew we had an algorithm that could be quite compelling. We looked at this algorithm and said, what are the drivers for this 10-gene algorithm? And it really was one major driver, in this case, PTGR1, which is a known enzyme that is involved in very important pathways. And we said, wow, this is great. PTGR1 is, in terms of relative importance, followed by PTPN14 and ASPH. And these were biologically relevant in the tumors that we were looking at. We then went and said, let's look at cancers that have overexpression of PTGR1 to see if this does hold true. Went to the lab, we looked at the number of spheroids and cell lines, and this is across the case. Our drug was several times, thousands or hundreds of times more potent than other drugs. And again, these were all cancers that were overexpressors of PTGR1. When we took PTGR1 and some of these other key genes out, the response rates totally changed. So we knew A, it was dose dependent, it was gene dependent, and that it validated our AI platform data. The AI also suggested that it would be useful in GBM. And again, we went back to the AI to look at whether blood-brain permeability would be a key feature of this drug, and it was. And again, this is a drug that basically, when we went public, we were just beginning to really do this work. And now by the end of the year, 6 months later, We have several programs launched, several collaborations. So that 6 months of work would have taken, I think, in a traditional pharma company about 2 to 3 years and several $1 million more. We then again looked at the PTGR1 transcript levels across a number of solid tumors. And again, we saw that the gene expression, this is a log2 value, correlated with LP184 activity really well. And so this gave us a lot of comfort that this really should be the driver. We did the same thing with another drug. We took, and this is the non-smokers and adenocarcinoma, where we looked at, this is a complex, much more complex mechanism. And we said, well, what really is driving this? And we knew that there was things involved in the inflammatory pathway, things involved in glutathione metabolism, which is really the redox cycle, and then also the ROS pathway. And so as we looked at these, the signature was amazingly mapped to actually these 3 biologically relevant mechanisms for that drug. And it gave us a lot of comfort that the response signature being developed with 300 was in fact mimicking the biology. And now this drug is now getting ready to launch into a phase 2 in non-small cell lung cancer for never smokers, which is about 20% of the new cases and several billion-dollar treatment opportunity globally. Again, going into the future, as we get more data, it's very important, but data is widely available. So it's really important how the data is put together, how it's cleaned and curated, what kind of questions the data is set up to answer properly. And more importantly, how can you find combinations? Because ultimately, that will be one of the most important ways that cancer is managed in the future. So again, I want to thank you guys at Deep Knowledge. This is just a quick snapshot of what we do at Lantern. Lantern's got some great, amazing, talented people, half computational biologists and AI engineers and half cancer genome scientists and molecular biologists. And that really is the future of drug development, bringing these 2 disciplines together rapidly. And so from that, I'd love for actually Deep Knowledge to update our profile in their system because, we have a much more advanced system today than probably their original profile. So we answer a lot of complicated questions, both in preclinical development, clinical trials, and also in patient identification. So with that, thank you for giving me a chance to showcase what we're doing.
Thank you so much, Penna. It's our pleasure entirely. If you've already registered a profile at the Deep Pharma Intelligence dashboard, you will be able to direct access and submit new data for your company as everybody who actually registers to this platform will be able to do. Before we close off the event, I would like to pass the floor once more to Dr. Andrei Bavailo to share a few brief words on the developmental trajectory and agenda of Deep Pharma Intelligence for the next year. Andrei, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Franco. First of all, I'd like to thank you, Panna, for really insightful presentation. As a scientist myself, I had great pleasure listening to these developments and impressed myself. And I believe this is a nice illustrative example of how AI can be leveraged already today with very tangible results. And yeah, so with that, I'd like to share also several words about our major plans that Deep Pharma Intelligence have in mind for the coming year. First of all, as was mentioned already, but I will repeat that we are launching commercial platform where we will put together all these blocks of software, all these visualization tools, and add much more to it, including the machine learning capacity. And this will be launched several months from now, I believe, for the beta testing, and so I welcome you to explore the platform already today. It has already some pretty powerful features, and it will be expanded further. So regarding the analytics, we are planning to publish quarterly open access reports on AI in pharma, keeping track of new developments and new companies in this field, and some other things. And also, we are going to produce reports on some other emerging areas like new therapeutics, stem cells, and more. And so we will be announcing those reports shortly. on monthly basis, we're going to produce kind of highlight mini reports to keep track of what's happening and kind of strategic but probably tactical things that might be leveraged by the companies to have opportunities for growth or investment, etc. And also, yeah, I already mentioned, but a landscape report on stem cells market, key players and developments will be released, I believe in February or a little later, and it will be featuring the market. This is a very growing field with a lot of opportunities. And also, we're going to publish our reflection on the year of pandemic, so to speak, and indeed reveal some how COVID-19 actually impacted the pharmaceutical industry, both business-like and in terms of research, accelerating research. As Dmitry mentioned, this COVID pandemics accelerated certain things in terms of AI adoption, but it was also a challenging year, and for example, some trials were postponed or didn't happen, and a lot of things didn't happen due to COVID restrictions and lockdowns. But on the other hand, it catalyzed very, very rapid progress in technological. People kind of adapted to a new reality, and also we will see how it impacted the investment landscape and what to do in the new year. What conclusions we should be deriving from what happened in 2020. And of course, I welcome you to our upcoming webinar, which will happen probably on 18th, but the date will be notified later on, shortly after the webinar. And so welcome to attend. We will have also guest speakers to illustrate our findings. And finally, I'd like to conclude my presentation with the statement that we are open for collaboration in a number of ways. So we welcome joint report production efforts with relevant entities, both in the R&D space and in financial investment space. And also media partnerships and promotion is a very active area of activity for us. And we are happy to partner with local startup communities and innovation hubs where they can leverage our global presence, whereas we can learn from them more specifically about their local innovation, trends, developments, and new companies. And for really big projects, we are happy to consider joint ventures. So for any questions, contact us at info@deeppharma.tech, and we will be happy to discuss further. Thank you.
Thank you so much for that, Andriy. In order to close off the event, I would like to first off thank all of our attendees and panelists for joining us today. This was, as Andriy mentioned, just the first in a series of webinars being hosted by Deep Pharma Intelligence, with another one scheduled preliminary for late January 2021. All attendees today will be emailed a link to that for pre-registration, and the link itself is in the chat if you'd like to get a head start on that. By that time, we expect to see a series of pretty substantial enhancements and functional developments in the platform itself, including significant refinements of its machine learning and reinforcement learning components for its competitor smart matching engine, as well as further development of the 2, 3, and even 4D company SWOT diagrams, which Dmitry briefly showed in his presentation. Around the same time in late January, we'll also be hosting a similar webinar on the topic of Aging Analytics Agency's Longevity Industry Investment Analytics Dashboard. And we expect a similar series of developments and new insights to be present at that time. So we welcome you to join us for both of those. And I'd also like to remind everybody to subscribe to the Deep Pharma Intelligence and Aging Analytics Agency websites at the bottom of their homepages. And in the case of Deep Pharma, you can locate that at deep-pharma.tech. And by subscribing, you'll get access to further updates, report releases, and event announcements early. And I'd also encourage relevant industry professionals who are interested in gaining early access to either of these dashboards to write us at info@deep-pharma.tech in the case of Deep Pharma Intelligence, and at info@aginganalytics.com in the case of Aging Analytics Agency, in order to request early access to the alpha versions of these platforms. With that being said, I'd like to once again thank our panelists and attendees, and we hope to see you again in the new year. Thank you very much.